Hello again, and welcome to Interview with DJ Nocturna. Happy new moon in Aquarius and happy new year, the year of the dragon. I've got Jessica Shepard with me. She's been on the show 2 times, I believe. We talked about her book, the fourth regarding the fourth house, Follow the Moonlit Path,
Mhm.
and then we talked about Vesta with Alice Inouye on K2H.
Mhm.
Back again, and I'm always trying to get her back. Every time she has a new book, I have to have her back because I always love your books.
Thank you. Thank
I,
you.
I mean, I bought all of them, I think. I don't know if there's anything else out there I didn't buy, but
I think you have all of them now, and you have the second editions too. So,
is this a
yeah.
second edition? This
So you will get so you have the second edition of my card deck, the Intuitive Energy Divination deck, right? And you have the first edition. And then the Love Alchemist notebook. Yes, this is the second edition.
oh,
You
okay.
have the first edition, I think, right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I had to reread it again just so that I can prepare for this and wow, and then I'm just like, wow, just totally I mean, I'm just like you. I would read a astrology book and put it under my pillow, fall asleep on it, you know?
Right. Yeah. A
Because
lot of people do that, like, especially when you're learning something, just kind of the magic of osmosis. Like you just want to absorb it even when you're unconscious. So, yeah.
no, there's just so much to
Yeah.
take. There's so much to learn, you know. You never can get tired of astrology.
Yeah,
There's
it's
always
true.
there's so different many facets of astrology. And I know when we talked about the fourth house, we were going through. I mean, you're still going through the fourth house, and I'm about to go into the fourth house. I'm actually in the fourth house, halfway.
You're talking about Pluto transiting your fourth house.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm just about there, and then you have the fifth house, which I always wanted to talk about too. But since Valentine's Day is next week, right?
Mm,
Which makes it so appropriate. I go, oh my God, this is such an appropriate topic to discuss because it is about love. It is Valentine's Day, although many
mhm.
people may not celebrate it. Some people may not celebrate, they're against it for whatever reason. But to me, it's like love is love, it doesn't matter what kind of love. And you
I
wrote this
agree.
amazing book, and I'm just reading it. I reread it again just to kind of refresh my memory and I discovered many things. And maybe you can talk about that and how you came about to create this book and your idea behind it.
Yeah. So should we start there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it begins with I guess I was in my late 20s. Um it was a while ago. And I knew it was time for a relationship for me, and I hadn't had one in a long time, a romantic relationship. And I wanted a particular kind of relationship. I wanted a soulmate relationship. I wasn't drawn to dating. That wasn't ever something I wanted to do. And at this time, internet dating was kind of coming onto the scene. So there was a lot of that going on. And I didn't like dating, and I certainly knew I didn't like internet dating before I even tried it. So, here I was with this kind of conundrum of well, I really felt in my heart like this deep calling, right, to partner. I felt I was ready. I had done all this work on myself. I had created a foundation for myself in my life. It's like we were talking about earlier, there is a time for everything.
Mhm.
It's not always the right time for a kitten to come into your life or a partner to come into your life. There are other things you're working on. And I deeply feel that. And so I had felt a sense of, okay, I'm at the right place and this is the right time. Um, and so how was I going to do this? How was I going to, even meet anybody if I wasn't interested in dating anybody? I'm introverted. I'm naturally an introvert. I'm very sensitive. I enjoy being alone. Um, the few dates I did go on, I remember just wanting people out of my space. So it was just like, this kind of unique conundrum, this unique question of me. How would this person, you know, answer this call that felt just pure from my soul? And at the time, of course, I was studying astrology. I was studying with a teacher every week. I mentored with somebody for 7 years at that point as a counseling astrologer. And so I was pretty deep into like kind of beginning to start my own practice, even counseling others. And I'd also been playing with the law of attraction. Now, at that time, the law of attraction was just really only used for manifesting money and cars. It's really odd to say that now, but there was like kind of this nascent time of The Secret and the law of attraction where, people were really into manifesting parking spaces and stuff. But so I'd done some of that. I'd manifested a house to live in. I'd manifested money when I needed it. I'd done these, but I never heard of anybody trying this for a partner. So it was like this converged, the law of attraction, my study of astrology and right timing. And I knew my transits, right? So I knew there was going to be this period of preparation, and then I could see, oh, relationship. So what can I do in this period of preparation? What can I do? I knew it wasn't going to be for a year or so. I could see that. And so here comes the kitten. She's just leaping around. She is drinking my water. I think I won't drink it anymore. So okay, so I have the law of attraction, I have astrology, I also have more ancient techniques in astrology. So you may know this, but astrologers of old, astrologers of the Renaissance particularly, were not just astrologers whom kings consulted for timing of battles and when when would be the best day to launch this battle so that I win it. I mean, that was literally how it was used, right? So it wasn't just that though, it was astrologers were physicians, they were healers, they were magicians, they did a lot. And so I stumbled onto Marsilio Ficino, who was a Renaissance astrologer, and he actually did these magical invocations in the right moment. And they're kind of more akin to what you'd think of as Wicca now, with spell casting and rituals, but he did it using astrology and timing too, right? And he used like planetary correspondences and all of these cool things that, you kind of have to be a little bit deeper into astrology to discover. So all of that was kind of converging for me. And I just started doing the work. I just started, playing around, doing little spells at the right time. I had some basic knowledge of Wicca and spell crafting. I was never considering myself a witch or a Wiccan, but I did, of course, like the idea of it. So I just started doing all these little experiments, which you can see in the and back of my book, the companion cookbook of spells. There's like, I don't know, maybe 30 of them or more.
Yeah.
And they're literally made up stuff. I mean, some of them had been done, like a few of them had been done by other people, but a lot of them were just like what I needed in the moment that I crafted for myself out of this toolkit I created. So yeah, it's a good,
I
yeah.
I know that you're a healer because you started out, with some health issues, right? When you were younger.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
that you develop this healing um gift, right? To heal others, right?
Yeah, so I call myself a healer in a very broad sense of the word. So I don't know how, as with many things nowadays, we're broadening our definitions of what that means. So, whereas like you might think of a healer as like a traditional like laying on of hands person or somebody who, reaches into your energy field and pulls stuff out. And I can certainly do that. It's not my specialty though. I feel like primarily I heal with words lately, you
No, no,
know.
I believe that. I love
Yeah,
reading your whatever you put out in social media, I really do. I mean, it is healing for me.
yeah.
And that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Thank
sense
you.
that.
Thank you for saying that. And thank you for bringing up the healer piece, because sometimes I'm just not sure how it's being what that means to different people, right? So I'm
Yeah.
like kind of clarifying that. Yeah.
No, I totally understand because I mean, if you feel comfort with another person, that's healing. If
Thank you.
you
Yes.
feel like a connection to them and you feel like you need to be around them. Now, if you kind of like run away from them, then that's a different story, right? Then there's something there going on. But I
Yeah.
understand that you really, I mean,
Maybe a spell for that, but we could work on a spell. Yeah.
no, but I totally get, and you do mention that in the book, and that's all part of how this book came about, right?
Yep.
Because of all that transformation that you went through and just acknowledging, and you kind of feel that when it's time to find somebody, you just know it, right? It's some
Yeah. I mean, eh, I did. And then eventually when I published this book and I got a little bit of press for it because it was published with Llewellyn the first time. And I was already a professional astrologer, and then I would start getting clients who specifically wanted to know when, right? Who like, when is this soulmate person? When that was a little tricky for me because,
I
because
mean,
it's like,
everybody wants to know that. I think when people get a reading, that's all they want to know. That's the first thing that comes to their mind. It's not about like, what do I need to heal my Chiron? It's not about that. It's about knowing.
so like the quote in the book, I think it was Gloria Steinem that I included, said something like, there are more people working on finding the right partner than becoming the right person for that partner.
Mhm.
And I think that that kind of sums up my book, like the
Yeah.
approach that I took, right?
Mhm.
Because it really is about becoming the right person.
Right, right. And that's totally what this book is about. That's what I wanted to emphasize. It's not about just finding somebody and then everything is going to be good. It's really about working on yourself.
That's right.
And when you work on yourself, then the right person will come along, right?
You
And
love
that's what.
yourself, you get really into yourself, you discover what's so great about me? Can I fall in love with myself in the same way that somebody else can fall in love with me? You know, that rush that you get when somebody really is into you, right? And that fascination. I noticed that with one person who continually came into my life. And it was like this, like, ooh, I'm exciting and I'm magnetic and I'm like beautiful to this person. And then I thought, can I be that without that person? And that was a real shift for me, right? Like to own it, right? And so, in the book I talk about that, like, all this great chemistry and the great feelings that you get when you're in the presence of somebody who is literally falling in love with you.
Mhm.
It's more powerful and empowering to do that for yourself. It
Yeah.
just is. It's gonna feel better to you. It's longer lasting. It's not dependent on somebody else, you know.
Yeah. It's true. I mean, you have to like love yourself first before anything else can even love you, right?
Right.
Yeah, you need to have that. You need to give yourself freely and live without the person and not deal with that kind of whatever it may be. Be on your own. And that's what I sense in the book. That's why I thought it was like it's a great book. I mean, I know it's called, for people out there, I'll put the picture of the book, but it's called, and I have the first edition, A Love Alchemist Notebook, which is really nice. And then it talks about, I know you talked about the nine soulmate, and I don't want to say too much because I want people to read the book, right?
Thank you.
But but there are like you talk about the secrets and how you came about to doing that, and you
Yeah,
actually met your
nine
soulmate.
soulmate secrets. Hmm.
And the good thing is you met your soulmate, and you're with your soulmate.
Yeah. And so, I wrote all of this down, obviously. Like I wrote my whole method because I was like figuring things out and I'm a note taker and I'm a writer. So I've always journaled my whole life. And it just so happened that I wrote a lot of this down, thank goodness, because I didn't actually write this book.
No,
It
that's
was
great.
probably, 8 to 10 years later.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So that's why it's called a Love Alchemist notebook. A lot of this was in a notebook,
Yeah, wow. It's almost like it was
actual
planned.
journal.
It was like it was almost like predestined to do this.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
yeah, absolutely. There was, I mean, that's a whole other story about how this came into being. It definitely had a lot of magic around it too.
Yeah, I mean, it's metaphysics and everything else. It talks about just the basic premise of how to get there. It's not just like that. And it's not something you just can magically work out. It's really about healing yourself and doing that. And then there's a process, right?
Yes,
Is
yes, and
what
there's a
that's that
process.
that's
There's
the
things you can do too to help yourself along the way. It's not, you know, what fascinates me too is that, you know, we know this, that everything happens first on the inside. We
Mhm.
know that, you know, anything that's made manifest outside of ourselves, whether it's a building, a company, a vision for something we're doing, it happens first inside, right? And so, but we don't typically think that way. We're not taught to think that way, especially in terms of dating. If we want to meet somebody and we get this reinforced over and over again, right? That you have to leave your couch, you have to leave your house. And I was like, I don't want to leave my house. I don't want to leave my couch. I don't want to leave, you know, so come on, let's do this in a different way. And so just I don't know, that's kind of to me the real power of this book is that we can co-create um entirely from this inward space.
And it's so
And
appropriate for Valentine's Day because love is really an alchemy. You know, it really is in its own
yeah,
way. You know?
yeah. And what is alchemy to you, Dr. Na? Like what do you how would you define that?
You know, it's something I can't even define because I just know
Yeah.
what it is. It's something you feel inside and you do it within. It's really a magic.
Yeah, it's like a shifting from one thing into another is how I tend
Yeah.
to, right? Because the ancient alchemists, I'm sorry if you're hearing this, this cat is like, okay, let me just show you. She's like,
Oh,
can you
there
see
she
her?
is. Let me see. Oh, there she is. No, I can't even hear what she's doing. That's you know what, when a cat does that, it's perfectly okay. Only a cat can get away with that.
She's stealing the show. Only a cat, right? Can steal the show. So like ancient alchemy was like, you know, turning a base metal into gold.
Yeah.
So it was like going through these processes that are really elaborate, actually, if you look at, you know, ancient texts, and this is like even in modern entertainment when they've done shows on witches and alchemy and stuff. I'm thinking of one in particular, you know, go look at the ancient texts in the old library and you'll see when that this happens and then it goes into a little, you know, egg and then it heats up and then it changes form and so it's a real metaphor for our psyche and how we go through these different processes, and it's not one thing that changes the lead or the crap of our life or however you want to call it, the bad things that have happened to us into something really precious
Mhm.
and worthy and valuable that we value. So that's kind of like this really cool metaphor. So in terms of the alchemy of love, you know, clearly that's this book, you know, the whole alchemy of that transformation of ourself. But then love itself can be, you know, like you're saying, its own alchemical process where it transforms us, it changes us
Mm.
just by being itself, just by
Yeah.
coming into our life. And suddenly we're, you know, we are changed in so many ways that are hard to put into words.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you know, some ancient books even wrote about it, you know. Mary
Yeah.
Shelley Frankenstein, for example, is a great example of alchemy.
Okay. Yeah,
Uh,
I don't know that, but it's
yeah.
so in our popular culture nowadays. I feel like it comes in these kind of mystical
Hmm.
doors
Yeah.
mhm.
So what made you decide to, I guess, bring back this book? I guess it's kind of
Mhm.
there's something that triggered it. I mean, and now that we're in the age of, well, I don't know what you kind of call it, but is the since Pluto, the you know, the sign of death and rebirth, right? It's like alchemy in that way
Yeah.
into Aquarius.
Yes. Yes. What prompted this? Well, that was its own alchemy. I have to say, astrologically, Venus went retrograde in Leo. That
Oh
was
yeah.
that last summer?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, last August, and the book had been out of print.
Mm-hmm.
The rights had reverted to me from the publishers. What that means, and so nobody could sell it except me, but nobody was selling it. So I had a decision to make to bring it back or to let it slide. And I think there were like thrift store thrifting on Amazon that happened, so you could still probably get it.
Mm.
But what happened during that Venus Leo retrograde period is I just suddenly it was really interesting. I wanted to value it again. It was very literal. I suddenly was like drawn to it. I would look at it and I'd be like, who was that girl? Do I still know her? I was asking myself that question because it happened so long ago. Like I said, even, 8 to 10 years before I even published the book. And the book was first published in 2010. And so, it just kind of was like, is this still applicable? Am I wise? Because I feel like I've grown in decades since, but obviously people liked this book.
I like it. I mean, do you recognize yourself, when you
So
read it?
that was the process of the Venus in Leo retrograde. I went back to it and I looked in it and I was not expecting to recognize myself so clearly. And I was reading my words. Now, what I did discover right away was that I was pretty sassy back then. I had more of this kind of, you can probably, you know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of humor in it.
Yeah, no, it's very informative, actually. I
It's
like
informative and it's charismatic and it's also sassy and passionate. And that kind of, there's a lot of personality in this book, appropriately enough for this Leo energy. And then so that was the first thing that I noticed. The second thing I noticed was that I was like, oh my gosh, that's still true. That's still true today. That still holds true. And so I went through it was like falling in love with my own book again. I went through the work and I was like, oh, I could actually use some of these tips right now in helping me with my business and figuring out how to do social media and stuff. Because I actually asked that question. I don't know if you ever do book divination. So book divination is what I call it. And it's when you ask a question, you kind of pull within and you just open a page.
yeah, like with this book. Yeah, that's what you mentioned here. Mm-hmm.
So I did book divination just for like some business thing with my own business I was wondering about. And I did it, and several times I landed on the same page. And it
Oh.
was a soulmate secret that said, I'm going to read it to you. Well, I almost thought I was going to turn to that page, but so it was soulmate secret number 9. And it says, love is, and it's always been magical and mysterious. Restore magic and mystery to love through enchantment. So this is about like using your psychic intentionality as attractive, like as like the receptive magnetism of pulling something towards you, which I kind of compare to like there's the flower and then there's the honeybee,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there's sometimes you have to be the honeybee and go after, and sometimes you become the flower and the flower just waits. The flower just prepares and deepens and nourishes and does all of that. And so that's how it's attractive, right? It just attracts, and it's actually not a passive thing, even though it's receptive, but it's not passive. So anyways, that secret kept drawing me back for my own question. So I thought, wait a second, somebody, actually more than one person, but I remember specifically one woman saying, this is not just about love, Jessica, it's about manifestation. It's about,
Mm-hmm.
these are techniques you can use to, bring more money into your life or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so those two aspects, your question was why did I bring this back now? And so I fell in love with it again. I decided it was still very wise and timeless. I
Mm-hmm.
felt like it was applicable right now as it ever was. And that kind of gave me goosebumps.
Yeah. When I met you, you were with Alice. You were doing a show with her, a presentation, right? And then you had all your books lined up there, and I said, "Oh, the fourth house. Oh, I like that. Okay, let me get that one." And I saw the fifth house. I was like, "Oh my God, I gotta go get that." And then you have the Venus book, Venus signs. That's another one. And I like that one too. And then I looked at this one, I go, I'll just get the whole thing. And then when I started reading it, I couldn't stop reading it. I kept reading it one after the other, you know.
Yeah.
First of all, it's astrology, so that interests me a lot. But it's a really good way to learn astrology if anybody out there is interested, because really it it's not a difficult. You know how some books are difficult to read because they're made for people who are already much advanced in astrology.
Mhm.
Not this one. It's almost like you're kind of telling a story of your
Mhm.
life, which makes it easier for people to understand the book. So
That's Thank you.
I
Yeah.
highly push this out to encourage anybody who wants to know about astrology to get this book. You know, and
It's
and
very
there's other,
accessible. Yeah. It's very accessible. And that's something I try and do with all my books.
yeah,
I That's a question I ask. Would somebody who doesn't know astrology be able to get something from this? And I do hear that consistently that and even with the follow the moonlit path, which is a little more deep, and tells you how to look at your birth chart. I just read a review on Amazon the other day, and some woman said, I'm not an astrologer. I just saw my daughter, who is an astrologer, reading this book. I picked it up and I fell in love with it, And so
yeah,
it's
it's
just like,
beautiful.
yeah,
The picture too on the book, it's like it's so beautiful. It really does explain the fourth house. I have to say that's exactly the fourth house in this picture.
yeah,
It's a child running in oblivion, which is
yeah,
really yeah. So
yeah.
it's really an
The inner child. Yeah,
child, yeah.
yeah.
So this book is available. Is there? They can get in your website, right?
So it's going to be this new edition. Like I said, I think you can still go onto Amazon and get the
Okay.
copy that you have. This new edition is, and this has like this, not for a resale because it's an author's proof, but that won't be on it. But this new edition is going to be available on the 14th, Valentine's Day, on Amazon. And the ebook version is available for pre-sale right now, but it won't be released until Valentine's Day. And there also is an Audible. Not many people know. So if you like my voice and you're into listening to audiobooks, um, it's really fun. So you can get that as well. And that's you can go today and get that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people watch YouTube, so I might as well just listen to it, right? It's the same thing, pretty much like YouTube. I mean, you sometimes I fall asleep listening to YouTube, like
Yeah.
lectures and stuff like that. So I think it's great. I mean, you don't have to read it; you can listen. There's many ways to do it now.
Yeah.
And so are you planning to do another book down the road? Have you have anything in mind?
I do have another book. It's basically almost written.
Eh,
I'm debating about how to publish it. Part of me wants to self-publish it, another part of me wants to get a publisher. So it's kind of like I'm at like,
Astrology,
hmm, what's that?
astrology book.
It is not, it is not. It is it's kind of, so you have my intuitive energy divination deck.
Hmm.
Um, and that is a 58 card deck for connecting with your divine true self. And it helps you to access your own guidance, right? And intuition. So this book is kind of the next level off of that. More about accessing your intuition and guidance through like a 40-day practice every day.
Wow, wow. So that's something. When are you planning on releasing the book?
It depends on how I decide to publish it. If I self-publish it, it'll probably be this year. If I get a publisher, the thing is when you go with a publisher, their timelines are so much longer. It's kind of discouraging. Once they accept it, it takes at least a year to even publish it. So
Uh-huh.
you have to get it all nice and ready and pretty, and then send it out to people and then be rejected or accepted. And that can be a 2-year process. So I'll keep you posted.
When you started writing all these books, I mean, were they happening when you're I guess when Pluto went into your fourth house? Is
No, because that didn't happen until,
Oh no, no,
what,
it can be right.
2017 or
Oh, okay.
16 or 17 or something like that. Um, no, in terms of what happened, astrologically when I started going public with my voice,
Mhm.
because I had been writing. I started out writing as a report writer for an astrology website. I don't think you would know this about me, but in the beginning, when blogs just were coming out, and astrology websites were popular, like astro.com,
Mhm.
astrology.com, all these websites. Reports were really popular. Like, well, I wrote a love and romance report every month for years for all 12 signs, and it was so arduous, but it's trained me to write.
Yeah.
It's like it really honed me. And then I was also writing my newsletter, which is the full and new moon, new late lunations. I did that every month. And then a connection was made between a client who worked in publishing and a famous horoscope writer
Mhm.
who needed somebody to ghostwrite for her column. She
Oh,
needed somebody because she was writing a book. She needed to take the time to write her book. And so they hired me to do that. So I wrote newspaper horoscopes.
oh, yeah, yeah.
And that happened. She was writing a book, this person, and she asked me to help her with that too. So by the end of this period, which was probably 5 or 6 years, I kind of felt, oh, maybe I could write a book, right? And astrologically, I was having a progressed new moon in Leo in my 10th house.
Oh,
Um,
wow. Okay.
progressed Mercury
Mm.
had been retrograde my entire life. I wasn't born with a Mercury retrograde, but it went retrograde by progression, and Mercury rules the voice,
Mhm.
right? And writing and written information and teaching. That year that I got that contract, they accepted my proposal and I was published. My progressed Mercury moved direct
Wow.
after decades of being like retrograde. So when a planet does that, it's like going from the inward phase to the outward phase.
Oh, so you, and then it's in the 10th house. So,
And it was in the 10th house of calling and profession and bringing your work to a larger community, which is also where that new moon, that progressed new moon fell in Leo, which is the sign of the artist and the creator. And so that
wow.
was what was happening astrologically. And that came
Yeah,
together.
I always believe that things happen in the, even though people are saying, oh, I need to find when am I going to meet someone? I mean, you can't really, yeah, they can manifest it, right? They can manifest it for sure.
Mhm.
But I mean, do you tell them too that it's all depending on whatever's in the chart, depending on what the progression and I don't know. It's hard to say, right? Because it's up to heal.
No, it was my least favorite part of this whole process. My least favorite part of publishing this book was what happened afterwards, is how people then saw me in this way of being able to do what I did for myself for them,
Mhm.
which is kind of the point of the book. No, do it yourself, like this is inner work, this is your journey.
Mhm.
But I was actually a professional counselor at that point in time. And so people would ask me, well, when am I going to find my soulmate? And when is my relationship transit? And so I would see what I would see, and I would do my best to communicate it as um what's the right diplomatically as
Yeah.
possible.
It really depends because there's so many things going on in the birth chart and you just don't know, right? I mean, there's so many things. It's
There's
not
a
just.
lot of things you do know though. So there was a lot of things that I did know. And like it was like, when I would see something that's like, oh, this is happening next year, of course I'm going to tell you. I mean, is it like, and I'm going to tell you why. Oh my goodness, you're going to want to be aware of this coming up period, and you're going to want to maybe do more of these types of things because you're going to be in a relationship period, right? And so that was easy enough. And I loved it when that happened. I loved it because I think I make people happy. I'm a Libra rising, I'm a Cancer. I want you to be happy, right? Like as my client, I want you to walk away like, yay, I love her. She told me good news. But sometimes I couldn't tell them good news. Sometimes I wouldn't see a relationship transit at all because, again, some of these only come along once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
And some people, here's that second part, aren't meant to find their necessarily their one person, right? Some people are more oriented towards having multiple partners
Mhm.
and having a lot of relationships. And that's where the next book came from, Karmic Dates and Momentary Mates, because I was getting a lot of those clients too who would come to me, who they would be like, where's my soulmate person?
Yeah, I
And
have
I
that one
would look
too.
at their chart and I'd be like, you are not actually inclined to look for that one person. You might be better off exploring, just seeing what happens, seeing where this partnership leads. And then when that's done, that's fine. Learning how to
Yeah, you
reach
grow.
out with love and move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
So
yeah, it was a whole thing.
so
Right. It wasn't just like releasing this great book about my experience. It actually started out and it set me down a different path for a while and having to figure that out, how I was gonna not
and
disappoint
and
people
and
and be honest and all that.
and then you met your soulmate.
Oh, well, that happened, yes, before I published this book. Yes, that happened in 2005.
Yeah.
I met John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I totally can see the magic of this book in many ways. If anybody want to check it out again, they can always like first they should go on your website so they can just see all the other stuff you're writing there. Because I know you do write quite a bit. Moonkiss.com, MOONKISSD.com. So that's how it's spelled. Or just look for your name, Jessica Shepherd, and just Google it and it'll pop up too as well. Now you are doing a special uh retreat with Alison Noy and Fern.
Mhm.
It's a Vesta retreat.
We astrologers.
Yep, three astrologers. I'm really looking forward to it. I signed up and it's happening April 27th and 28th. You want to talk a little bit about what is it, who's Vesta and the power that she holds for anyone?
Yes, yes, yes. So we're still accepting signups. Happy to have anybody who's interested come, and it's going to be a weekend long event at this point. So Vesta, she is an asteroid, astrologically, and one of a handful of feminine asteroids that became popular, well, just became known to kind of the astrology community in the 70s at a time when women were really liberating themselves into different roles. We're not just, the girlfriend, the mother, the wife. We are more than that. And so that's how this all kind of these asteroids came up. And Vesta particularly holds energy and she illuminates our ability to focus and hone our calling.
Hmm.
So, it's kind of a deep and potent astrological energy. Her symbol is a flame, a sacred flame. And also you might liken it to the, a fireplace. What do you say? Hearth, rather. The hearth. Just kind of goes like this.
Hmm.
So it's kind of how we hold our fire, how we hold our passion, how we hold our connection to spirit, really, like our deep, deep connection to what we're bringing forward
Hmm.
into this incarnation, this body, this world. Um, so she speaks to our purpose quite a bit. She speaks to what we're called to do, and that as being sacred, the sacred calling.
Hmm.
There are people who you just can't separate them from what they do in the world. And, you can't, who they are is also what they do, kind of thing. It's a very kind of Virgo thing too. And
Mhm.
Vesta is very much like that. It's like, the nun or the priest or the master chef, or it's when a person just is so integrated with what they're called to do. And so this retreat's gonna explore that in depth in the astrological chart with each of you, the participants, and also hopefully, if hopefully you guys are open to like, well, how can I, um, you know, do this in the world? Like, how can I bring this forward? How can I, like feed this flame and do these practices or this inner work or this because it doesn't happen like most things, it doesn't happen overnight. You have to dedicate yourself to bringing something forward, right? And so
And
it's very
and
much
and
about
there's a
that.
lot of people, they don't even know they have this in their birth chart. Everybody has a Vesta and they don't know. That's why by going to the retreat, they will be more they'll be more made aware, or that part of
Yeah,
them that needs to be.
that part of themselves. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's like, especially, I mean, it would be really interesting to me if I were like confused about my calling and my purpose in life to, go find out where my Vesta is in my chart, because it really does speak to your individual yearnings and um style and desire. And I mean, it can be quite specific when you go into the birth chart, right? With what that calling, what you're called to do,
Mhm. And
what it is.
this is something I've always wondered about myself, but having Vesta next to conjunct Chiron in my fifth house. I've always like wondered, like, God, I got to know, and then all of a sudden you guys are doing this, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like meant to be. I kind of manifested it, I guess.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. You came to the self-care retreat. You were there, and that's when that idea happened.
Oh, really? Wow.
Mhm.
On
And
the,
you told me you should do more of this. I remember you told me you
yeah,
should do
yeah.
more of this. Yeah.
Well, I believe that things happen on a particular day, whatever it may be, it was meant to happen.
Hmm.
Like a collaboration or something like that. I don't know if you watch my interview with a band called KMFDM. I interviewed the founder, Sasha. He's from KMFDM. It's a German, just a German band. Anyway, they were founded in February 29, 1984, right? So I did what I normally do. I looked at the chart when this what was happening February 29, 1984 in Paris, France, and I put these what do you call that? The names, the asteroid names.
Hmm.
Sasha and the other guy that's involved in this, his name is Hugo. His last name is Strum. I looked it up and I found it right on um conjunct in Aquarius in the 10th house
Yeah.
on that day. It was almost like it's meant to be because that was a leap year.
Yeah.
And that's who would, I mean, it was even exact conjunction, exact number. I think it was an
Hmm.
eight, something like that. Just like how I saw your name in my fourth house. And we were talking about the fourth house there at that time.
It's
Yes,
funny.
so it's really
I,
magical.
I and I didn't know that Shepherd was an asteroid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Well, I
I
was
didn't
looking for
know that.
Jessica, but there wasn't I don't, I think, I don't know. It isn't, I just find these things really magical, I mean, why would it appear in a certain chart or a certain thing, and then it's not just one thing. It's actually more than just that thing. But
Mhm.
yeah, there really is a magic behind astrology. Whether people, even asteroids, even not there's not necessarily planets, but asteroids. That's how
It, it's
magical.
all magic, really, the whole universe. I mean, you know how planets are discovered. I mean, there's a whole magic about that where
Yeah.
um, a planet's discovered and they name it for a synchronous reason, around the person or whatever, or the god, but or you could say asteroid or star too, but then it's attributed with all of these qualities and
Mhm.
um stories and symbolism that has been in the collective awareness around the time
Mhm.
that it was discovered. So like how Neptune with photography, right? And
Yeah, yeah.
the seances and the spiritualism and all that was taking place. And then, Neptune's discovered. So it's all just really right there, right?
Yeah. Ever since I started studying astrology, I recognized Neptune, the power of Neptune in my chart with photography and all those other things. And I never knew that was because of Neptune. Just all kinds of stuff. I mean, people just people if something interests you, go for it and check it out. You never know what you might find. So the
Yeah.
Vesta retreat is if people want to check that out, how would they go to this is eventbrite.com. Um
Yes. It's with Happiness You on Eventbrite. So you can go there.
mhm.
Um, you can also just go to my website and email me if you can't find that. And there's a contact me page there. Be happy to get back to you and you
Okay.
know,
I'll put a link on the bottom of the
yeah, let's do that too. Yeah.
yeah, that would be the best way because some people may not find it, but I'll put the link.
Okay.
And I'm really super excited for this. It's in April 27th and 28th. It's a 2-day retreat. And once you're in, then everything else will be revealed. And it's you, Fern, and Alice. And and you studied under Stephen Forrest, right? That's one of your
Mhm.
mentors. Yeah. So that's a evolutionary astrologer.
And so did Fern.
Oh
Fern
yeah,
did.
yeah, yeah. She's still doing stuff with him, right?
Yeah, yeah. She's a tutor with his school.
Yeah, no, I mean that's amazing. I love Stephen Forrest. I love evolutionary astrology, is my favorite actually. There's your cat. All right. Well,
But yeah, she's
gosh,
just chasing a fly. Very important work. She's really into it.
she has her Vesta going on right there.
Yeah, that's her calling fly asteroid on her Vesta. There's probably a fly asteroid too. Knowing you, you'll find it.
I know. I'm looking for all kinds of things. I discover stuff, just randomly, and just like I found this whole stuff here. But I'm so excited for your next book, and thank you for coming on the show and talking about this. And it was
Thank
very,
you
very.
for doing. Thank you
I
for
always
inviting me.
always love.
Thanks for, bringing all this work to light. We really appreciate it.
It's like it's part of my Vesta calling, I guess.
Yes, we'll have to explore that because I'm a strongly Chironian character too, so that would make sense. So your Chiron Vesta.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really like powerful. Yeah, I'm happy with it. Okay. All right. Thank you, Jessica. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Nocturna. Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day. Yeah, this is perfect for Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day, the new moon in Aquarius, and the
Year
and
of the Dragon,
the year of
Wood
the
Dragon.
dragon. Oh my gosh. And all the stuff uh, I think there's so many planets in one. Oh my God, there's just so much stuff going on.
And don't you feel it right now? Like I feel like there's all like even if I didn't know all of that, I just feel all
Yeah,
this
yeah, there's a lot of stuff.
energy. It's like whoosh. Yeah.
I'm sometimes I'm afraid to go out because I don't know because it's Aquarius. Uranus is like, I don't know. I don't want to be surprised, but hopefully
I
it's
stay
fun.
in I stay in a lot. I stay in a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you again and we'll
Thank you
talk
so much.
soon.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.